Last time on Wheels of Fury. Explosions! But not really.
I'll look back at the year. And so, I think that I couldn't just think about one. And because I was more of a WWF fan than ECW or WCW, I figured what the hell. And so, I mean, it could change up.
I think that's what drew a lot of people to ECW. Was just they would have very good matches, just three-way dances or straight-up matches. But they also had just ruthless, intense, hardcore matches.
Hey, Vicious and Delicious here. Me and Matt and Killer Kyle here. And welcome to another edition of Wheels of Fury. And a continuation of Look Back at Year Series.
Started this near the end of last year. And we weren't able to pick back up again because things got busy and kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
But we figured, since we have a bit of a in-between from, pay-per-view predictions and, whatever else, we would at least start a new episode of a Look Back Year series.
Yeah.
With when we're talking about 1995, and we're starting with ECW's Hostile City Showdown.
Yeah, I mean, we got it, like, 3. We're not going to do 2 WWF events this time. I figure let's just do 3. We got ECW, WCW, and WWF, obviously.
Yes.
So, yeah, 1995. 10 going on 11. So you're at 4 going on 5.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was an interesting year. And I mean, in terms of wrestling, I was more of an occasional fan at that point.
Right.
I tried to catch it here and there, but not necessarily a huge fan. So
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of it. Obviously, didn't watch WCW that much, if any. I had no idea what ECW was. So, yeah.
During that whole, just about the whole era of the 90s, WWF, WCW, and ECW were the 3 most popular promotions.
Right.
I mean, ECW from 93 to 01, WCW, fuck, you're talking 85, I'll say roughly, till 01. WWE, it's still going. But, like, yeah,
So, yeah.
they were, at that point, like, ECW and WCW were considered WWF's main competition back then.
Yeah.
Because, like, ECW was the more edgy, hardcore wrestling, and, of course, WCW, well, at this point in time, well, it was a little bit later, but, like, it was around this time that you would have Eric Bischoff in charge.
Right, yeah.
And then his sole goal was to put Vince out of business.
Yes.
And, everybody, of course, loves WWE, WWF.
Mm-hmm.
But then, when WCW came along, and then, of course, ECW, people were like, oh, what's this new show that has come along, especially with ECW, because you look at, we look back to when ECW first started. Now, at this point in time, 95, ECW had only been around for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You look back to 1993, when there was Eastern Championship Wrestling. It was your average, I guess you can't say average. It was just another wrestling promotion.
Right.
They did bring in what you would call your big name wrestlers. Don Morocco, Jimmy Snuka, Road Warrior Hawk.
Yeah.
There was several others. And then you had your unknown talent. Your Sal Palomos, your Sandmans, your
Tommy
Dreamer, your
Sabu.
Nah.
Oh man, yeah.
Sabu didn't come along till later.
Yeah.
But, like, in the beginning, Chris Candido.
Yes.
And whoever his partner was, the blonde, something or other.
Yeah. Yeah, Stevie Richards and Raven.
Again, didn't come along until later.
Well, they're in this pay-per-view, but whatever.
So, you had Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yes.
And it was your basic, just another wrestling promotion. And then, right about mid-94, that's when things really started to change. And the big thing was, of course, Shane Douglas.
Yeah.
Throwing down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and proclaiming himself the new ECW World Champion. And then, slowly but surely, things became more edgy and, like, hardcore. Using weapons and more provocative and, sexual and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And in 93, the television censorship, I'll put it that way, wasn't as used as much as it is nowadays.
Yeah.
And so you got into the end of 94, and 95, 90, it really took off into, what the global phenomenon it became.
Yes.
And you ask a lot of the ECW guys, Dreamer, Sandman, Raven, Rhino, Sabu, RVD, anybody else, they would tell you ECW had a cult following.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were that wrestling company where, yes, you had your, hardcore wrestling, there was also a mix of, when they had a wrestling match, ECW fans were smart.
Yeah.
They enjoyed, your hardcore matches, your lucha matches, your, traditional wrestling match, I'll call it. And it was an eclectic mix of different styles. And it was such a hot commodity that, pretty much anybody and everybody wanted to be there. And, it was just a wild time back then. ECW.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is you have a company that, look at Paul Heyman at the Untold Story of ECW, and he said he didn't want wrestlers to just come out and say, song and dance and do whatever, They came into the ring, and then, in your face violence and brutality and things that necessarily were not there, in my opinion, unless you count Brazil, in 1994. So that was a unique thing, and especially at those days. And then you go to 97 when ECW invaded Monday Night Raw.
Right.
WWF, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I definitely believe that it was Paul Heyman who influenced Vince McMahon to do the Attitude Era.
I think so.
I mean, yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Degeneration X had a hand in it, but it was more or less Paul Heyman's in-your-face style that WCW and WWF didn't have. And it was one of those things that you look at the crowds in an ECW show. The most obnoxious, loyal, again, in-your-face motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah.
That drink beer, they will throw shit at you.
Yeah.
It's just that crowd. And again, that's where ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, was unique.
Yes.
Not only that, when I first saw it, it almost looked like a public access show.
Essentially.
Because of the style
Yeah.
of the camera. Now, I used to compare Ring of Honor to ECW for that reason. But anyway, so this show was actually a very good show. And I mean, you look at it as what was to come in the upcoming years.
Yes.
In ECW.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about how loyal and crazy ECW fans were. I still remember Bam Bam Bigelow, Spike Dudley, and Bam Bam tossing Spike into the crowd, and instead of, just, alright, well, bring him and just put him over the barricade onto the floor, they're body serving him around the fucking arena.
Yeah. So anyways, here we go. Okay.
So, start things off with Mikey Whipwreck against Stevie Richards.
Yeah.
Mikey was one of those guys that could take a shit kicking.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, this guy, as young as he was, you could have seen him as the ECW champion in the future of the business, but I don't know how far he went with that. The promos this guy cut were amazing. So,
Yeah.
Stevie Richards, obviously, another very good one. I mean, I just knew him from WWF.
Yes.
And then, of course, a couple of years later, him joining Right to Censor. But this guy,
Blue World Order.
Blue World Order, a business psychiatrist in TNA.
Yes.
You know, this guy was a fucking maniac. And so, this was a good match, too. And yeah, they really beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think, like, how young Mikey was, and whoever he was in the ring with would absolutely, unmercifully, beat the holy piss out of him. He did hold the ECW Tag Team titles, the ECW Television title, and I do believe also the ECW World title.
Right.
So he wasn't just a whooping boy. Sin and Tobo Gungeon.
So we have Topo Gungeon versus Tony Stenson.
We apologize if we're not pronouncing that correctly.
Sure. And this was pretty cool. I mean, Tony Stenson is a pretty big legend in himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Tochi is a unique wrestler. Obviously, a Japanese guy.
Yes.
But plays to different styles.
Oh yeah. And that's a lot of times what can make a really good match. It's just contrasting styles. I mean, it's been done for years, and it still continues to be done to this very day. You get, the right two people, the right four people tag team wise, whatever the case is, and it just gels.
Yes.
It meshes so well together.
Yeah, Taijio ended up going over on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, as good as Tony Stenson was, I think that I don't know how long he was in ECW for.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was cool. I mean, a lot of talent from Japan. Well, it's like WCW. A lot of talent from Japan and Mexico. I mean, you look at guys like Yoshihiro Tajiri and Super Crazy and all those guys, and it's like, holy fuck, is there any better talent?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the talent that ECW had at this point in time was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, through their whole run, the number of people that were in ECW were just 1 in a million, man. As I mentioned previously, from guys like, Jimmy Snuka, Tom Morocco, and Road Warrior Hawk, to Mikey Whipwreck, Stevie Richards, Tony Stetson, Raven, Sabu, RVD, Rhino, Public Enemy, the Pitbulls, Triple Threats, and the list goes on and on and on. So this next match, I know Matt would love this match. We got Axel and Ian Rotten against each other in a barbed wire baseball bat match.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this was fucking amazing. And I mean, just the hardcore brutality. They get busted open. They beat the shit right out of each other. Obviously, the barbed wire baseball bats. This match was one of the reasons why ECW was one of the best underground wrestling promotions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we rarely get to see that anymore unless you watch AEW from time to time.
Yeah.
But this was a good fucking match. And then, of course, yeah, Ian had won. Not sure why they faced each other, but yeah, they went all over the place too. Man.
I believe what it was is they were a tag team, and they had a match. I can't remember who was against, but if they lost, like whatever team lost,
Yeah.
could no longer be partners. And it was Axel and Ian that ended up losing, and they... the matches these guys had. Barbed wire baseball bat, wrapping your fist in tape, and then
Oh, yes.
dipping your fist in glue, and then in broken glass.
Yeah.
I think they had a Chinese Taipei death match against each other. Oh, these guys were the personification of physicality and violence. Well, then again, a lot of these guys in this promotion were just, violence to the max. That was the ECW mantra.
Yeah.
Like, as I did say that there was a mix of hardcore matches and then your, typical traditional matches and what have you. But, like, their bread and butter, so to speak, was the hardcore stuff.
A very classic feud, in my opinion, for ECW, but you've got Raven versus Tommy Dreamer.
Oh, yeah.
You fucking have Stevie Richards again, and Beulah McGillicuddy. Now, at this point, Beulah was, I guess she turned heel or something.
I think so, yeah.
And because originally she was with Tommy, and then there was a feud with Tommy and Sandman later on in ECW and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, this was a good match.
Right, yeah.
And you look at the innovator of violence, and Tommy Dreamer was just that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the things Tommy would do, not only to himself, but, like, to whoever he was in the ring with, it was something else. And the thing about this rivalry was, it was the curse, you could say, of Raven, because it seemed to be no matter how many times Raven and Dreamer fought each other, Dreamer wouldn't get a win. Until it was like right near, I think Raven might have been going to WCW or something like that, and they were just finishing up the rivalry, and finally Dreamer was able to beat Raven. I don't think it was for a title, it was just, I think it was like a steel cage match or something.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this match went to a no contest, which was obviously the drizzling shits, but this was the pay-per-view where Tommy Dreamer power drive Beulah McGillicuddy.
Yep.
So.
And see, that's another thing. ECW was very well known for, to put it bluntly, violence against women.
Oh god.
Not in a cruel way.
Right.
It was just that time period, You got Dreamer, pile driving Beulah. There was one match, you had Yvonne and Baba give the 3D to Beulah, and yeah.
Yeah. And again, that was the WWF got their influence, because you had, Miss Congeniality turns into Lita. But the fact that she had enough balls, so to speak, to wrestle with the men from time to time.
Yeah, for sure.
And all of that. So I think that's pretty fucking cool. But then you also had you know, Jazz, you had Don Marie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, this was kind of like you could do anything you wanted because you didn't have these woke sons of bitches up your ass like today. So, I mean, again, like Kyle said, it wasn't like a cruel thing. It was just men and women could wrestle each other.
Yeah.
Now, it does still happen from time to time. We saw a video a couple years ago with the Young Bucks versus Candice LeRae and
Joey Ryan.
So, that, you know, it goes to show you that it can happen, but it rarely happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a fucking good match.
So now we go on to a match for the ECW World Television title. You got the late Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dean Malenko did wrestle for a little while in ECW.
Oh, the man of 1,000 holes. And these two had a lot of history together.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you have them in WCW, and then you have them in ECW. Then, you know, we got Benoit, Saturn, Malenko, Guerrero, and they all joined WWF in 2000, and so on and so forth. But again, two different styles. Got the Luchador and Eddie, and then you have the man of 1,000 holes, the Iceman, Dean Malenko. This match was fucking technical, if you wanna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Eddie and Dean had some great matches against each other. This match was so back and forth that there was no winner by the end of the time limit. But that just goes to show you how good these guys were.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there was a point where you have Dean put Eddie in the Boston crowd. Or you have him. He got out of it, but the Texas Cloverleaf.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, Eddie retained the title. And they would have many more very good matches in the future. But this one, you know, and the fact that they were young.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Eddie was fucking, like, 20, I'd say 27.
Probably, yeah.
So, and around there. Yeah, Dean was much older, but still, just the fact that they could still go, and it's not to say that Eddie in WWE was bad, but it was, I think, much better in the early years.
Yeah, yeah.
So. Shane Douglas versus the Sandman.
For the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah. Well, normally the main event would be the title, but they chose this, whatever. And Sandman was a very unique character.
Oh, yes.
You know, here's a guy that wasn't your typical professional wrestler.
No.
You have a guy that comes out in a white beater shirt, you know, with the kendo stick. He's got the cigarette, and he crushes beer on his head and whatever.
Oh, yeah. And he was, I would say, the first, well, to my knowledge, the first wrestler to do an entrance through the crowd.
Yeah.
No other wrestler before him had done that.
No, that's true.
And then you go, you know, forward sometime, you know, the Shield, John Moxley,
Edge,
yeah, the Edge,
the Brood. Well, Edge and Christian mostly.
Yeah, Edge and Christian mostly.
You know. So yeah, Sandman was definitely the innovator for that. But in the aforementioned Shane Douglas, the franchise. Dean Douglas. But anyways, I'm glad Shawn Michaels wasn't there. So, this match was cool, and Sandman won.
Yes.
And, Shane Douglas had a woman in his corner.
Yep.
So, that's cool. But yeah, obviously Shane, tried to hold his own, and you thought he might win. Obviously, Sandman defeated Shane Douglas for the championship.
Yes. So then we go on to a tag team match for the ECW World Tag Team titles. Public Enemy, Flyby Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge against the Pitbulls.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, these two teams, you look at the Pitbulls, for example, and these guys' unique entrances, coming down the aisle with those little steel leashes or whatever, the big collars, and then the Public Enemy, who definitely were the innovators of the tables and tag team matches. So, two unique styles, like two teams with unique styles, and this was very cool. They even fought outside and bloodied themselves up. But yeah, Public Enemy pulled it off. So the Public Enemy retained the titles, and yeah, still a hard-fought match. Unfortunately, they're no longer with us.
Yes.
And yeah, it wouldn't be long with ECW that they would make their way to WWF and get the holy hell beat out of them by the Acolytes.
Yeah.
Man, what could have been? Anyways, yeah, a very good tag team as well.
Had they only just done the job. Anyways.
Speaking of which, we have Ron Simmons versus 911. See what I did there? Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see this match when I watched the video.
Probably would have been short and sweet, I imagine.
Oh yeah, like 911. Well, 911 had Paulie, and, he was, again, one of the big men in ECW. But you also have the tough as nails Ron Simmons. Now, here's a guy that had just come from WCW, the first black heavyweight champion in WCW. And so making his way to ECW again, I don't know how long he was there, and so, yeah, 911 picked up the victory.
And then we go on to, guess you can call this the main event. You got Cactus Jack
Bang bang!
against Terry Funk, the Funker.
Yep. These two guys, oh my god. Look at the work in Japan, you look at the work in ECW. Then they did some work in WWF. Probably WCW as well. I don't even know. But, so, I mean, like Terry Funk's career started in the 70s. I'm sure even before that. I don't know where the hardcore style came from. But you look at his matches that he's had over the years. Mick Foley. Matches in Japan. I can't think of anybody in particular off the top of my head, but obviously we can't talk about this enough. The match he had with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, Jerry, the match.
So, this match was fucking brilliant, because they beat the shit out of each other outside the ring, on the ramp. I think there was a point where fucking Mick Foley tossed Terry Funk off the ramp.
Yeah.
yeah, this was cool. And I mean, these two, I can't say enough about them, but Cactus ended up winning.
Yeah. At one point during the match, you have Terry take off back, up the ramp through the curtain. It's like, the fuck is he doing? Couple minutes go by or whatever. Here comes Terry wielding a flaming branding iron.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like, holy shit.
But, you have Cactus Jack win, and here comes the Sandman. Sandman basically beats up Mick Foley, pours beer on him, and celebrates with Terry Funk.
Yeah.
And that ends the show. So, I mean, this was very cool, especially at that time. 1995, you wouldn't expect something that edgy.
No.
I mean, kind of. The music definitely was edgy. Wrestling, per se, was not, unless you're watching, like, Abdullah the Butcher or whatever.
Abdullah the Butcher, the Sheik,
Yeah.
Bruiser Brody.
Council said it was kind of council wrestling. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classy Freddie Blassie, stuff like guys like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about music, like wrestlers' entrance music being edgy at this point in time, which it was. Nothing really too over the top, but probably the most, you could say, iconic entrance theme back then was Sandman's.
Oh, yeah.
Because he came out to Metallica's Enter the Sandman.
Enter Sandman, yes. Tommy Dreamer. You got that Sandman coming out to Enter Sandman. You've got Rob Van Dam coming out to Pantera's Walk.
Right.
You have whoever the fuck it was that came out to, I don't know, I think it was Taz that came out to a Nirvana song. But
you had Tommy Dreamer later on come out to House of Chains, Man in the Box.
yeah. So, yeah. What a good pay-per-view this was.
For sure.
So, there you have it. The first look back at 1995 episode.
Yep.
ECW. Hostile City.
Showdown.
Yes.
Yeah, so we got that done. Next week, we will be putting this series again on a bit of a hiatus because up next is going to be Impact Wrestling's Under Siege
Yes.
show.
Yep.
So we will, of course, be doing predictions for that. And, of course, as usual, a play-by-play. And after that, there's a whole slew of things coming up, so...
WrestleMania Backlash.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot coming up.
WrestleMania Backlash,
I feel like
Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I feel like you just did an Impact play-by-play.
Well, I mean, it's only like, be like, what, 2 weeks? Because just last weekend, we did Rebellion.
Yeah, Rebellion.
So, either close together, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
But anyway, so very cool. Very cool. And
Yeah.
we'll keep going with it, and hopefully it won't be too long before we talk about WCW World War III.
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, Matt, this is Killer Kyle.
And we will see you next week.
Deuces.